Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. I am just setting up, so entertain yourself, find a comfortable spot, whatever you need to do while I get organised. You'll sort of notice that the theme for this video today is seems similar to last week's, but this was the video I was going to do first, but it's taken me yonks to actually fill out and complete. And I hate to say it, I have 5 pages of notes. So if you wanted ideas for strongholds, you're getting it in spades today, okay? All right, so you will find the start time for this video down in the description. I will put it down there. It's what I do normally once YouTube has published the live stream. Now, you can't access my live streams because they do go unlisted, but if you have subscribed, hit the bell button and turned on your notifications, you should be able to return to this live stream and watch it later if you are not able to stay for the whole live stream. If you're a patron, you get access to my live streams, no problems, because I put it on the Patreon page for you specifically, as well as any of my notes, and there are extensive notes as it happens. Hi dancers, and hi John. And I don't know that I am too sexy for this hat. I think I'm doing all right, but I wouldn't say it's any further than that. Okay, now for those of you who are sitting here and wondering what's going on, I wasn't really going to do just 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 different ideas. I just decided to write down absolutely everything that I could find and think up. So that means a long video, 5 pages. There's a lot of content and a lot of images. I would appreciate people, as you're watching, to type into the comments section of the live chat anything that stands out for you, anything that you particularly like, the things or ideas that you like the most, or anything you want to add to that, because I would be very interested in what sort of captures people's imagination. Now, if you haven't been part of my live streams before, normally what I do is I present everything first, and then I open up for questions and answers at the end. I will use slides and images, so you won't see my face till the end of this live stream, but I will come back to the webcam at the end. It just makes it easier for me to present the whole thing. So, now that we've gone through the formalities of what Fred does on his channel, let's go on to the presentation for today. I just need to get rid of my earplugs because I don't need them. All right, grab some food, drink, get comfortable, settle down, and I'm going to tell you a lot of different stories. I like to point out too that just because the video says ideas for strongholds and home bases in Dungeons and Dragons doesn't mean you could not use them as a dungeon or a adventure location. And I think you'll find a lot of these ideas could easily do both. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Not specifically epic mounts or whales or anything like that. No, I'm going to talk about different ideas for your strongholds, your home bases in Dungeons and Dragons. Wow, now this is the actual ideas video. This is the one where I just dump everything in my brain and everything I could possibly find and then just vomit it out onto you. And you decide what you like and what you don't like. So here are about 20 plus ideas for a Dungeons and Dragons stronghold or home base for your game group. You heard me right. I'm not doing 5, not doing 10, not doing 15, not doing 20. I'm doing more than 20 different ideas that you can take and use in your game. So the types of Dungeons and Dragons strongholds I have broken up into sort of groups. And as I work my way through this video, you will notice that the level of imagination or just peculiarity will increase. I'm starting kind of with the tame stuff and working into the more out there on the edge stuff for those of you who want out there on the edge. So starting off with number 1. A castle surrounded by a moat, sitting on a mountain top or a cliff face by the sea. Or why not have it floating in the clouds that can fly? This is really, you could take all those ideas and include all of them into the same castle, or take just one or two of those ideas and decide that that's good enough for your current castle, home base, or stronghold. It really doesn't matter exactly how you lay that out. I would say to you that these are just ways of, one, giving the players a way of, one, capturing a location. Once they've captured the location, it's now their opportunity to decide, do we want to keep it? We've cleared out the monsters, we've cleared out all the villains, do we want to keep this location? Okay, number 2 would be an impenetrable granite mountain fortress populated by rock monsters with spikes and a defensive magical force shield. And I think that it would be quite sensible to have yourself an animated sphinx set in the front of it, just to scare people off with glowing eyes. That never works well for anybody, correct? Number 3, an 800-foot tall statue that steps over castle ramparts and smashes through those stone fortress walls so that you can get to the villain and crush the life out of them. Why not? I kind of took this idea very much from Ghostbusters, where they decide to animate the Statue of Liberty, and also from Chris Perkins and his use of the statues of, I believe it's Waterdeep, has a whole lot of very large statues that can sort of walk around and move if you want to. Number 4, a flying ship or balloon, I've used this many times, powered by an air elemental or some other device or magic that travels faster than light and possibly functions like a time machine. I know the idea of including time travel in a fantasy game scares the bejesus out of a lot of players. Not so much, but the Dungeon Master much more. It should scare players, because I've done it to players and they've realised the ramifications and the mistake of actually doing that. I know for Dungeon Masters it's very, very scary, but it's really, really cool. And certainly at higher levels of play, it allows them to rectify all the problems they may have created as they were exploring, adventuring, and doing whatever else they are up to. A ship. So number 5 would be a sailing ship or a pirate ship crewed by a magical talking ocean creature or ocean creatures. Or why not just go with the Black Pearl idea and have an undead crew or sailors that can navigate the seas and oceans. It's relatively basic. We always sort of get drawn to the idea of being on an old pirate ship, a galleon of some kind. And of course you can see in the distance there's that castle stronghold with the skull face, which is quite common. You've got to have a skull on your ship and you've got to have a skull on your home base, right? So number 6, we're starting to get into the really weird stuff. What about a glass and seashell submarine? Or you can go with a mechanical whale, but in any case, I think it would be cool if it's powered by a water elemental. Water elementals are essentially just energy revolving around that element, so why not have it trapped in the submarine or the mechanical whale? Number 7 is an underwater castle, palace, town, a city with a dome that hides magical water-based technology created by sea elves. Eat your heart out, Atlantis. Really, this is a lot of stuff that we've seen before. If you've watched the movie The Deep, you will sort of understand that there's lots of different things. The Man from Atlantis is a very good example of the sorts of things that we sort of would be trying to pull out, where you have a series of locations that are underwater that you can use and explore or have as a hideout or a stronghold. And of course then you've got to build in the idea of some sort of race that can actually function underneath the water if you want to sort of continue playing in a game or campaign like that. Number 8 is the Wizard Tower, full of libraries, workshops, protected by ancient elven magical runes and beasts. And of course, if it's floating, which of course you want to have a floating Wizard Tower, not just your standard Wizard Tower standing on a mountain top or anywhere else. The only way to get there is with a flying mount. Magical beasts, dragons, griffins, hippogriffs, that sort of thing. makes for a lot of fun, particularly since your players will constantly be hounding you and saying at higher levels, we would like giant eagles. And we don't want anything but giant eagles because giant eagles fix everything. I've had that one played on me more than a few times. Number 9 is the volcanic black rock stronghold, housing a gigantic dwarven forge with a river of lava built into the belly of a volcano where once there lived a villain, and that was his lair until somebody came along, dropped him into the lava and decided to keep his home. I wonder who did that. Number 10 is join a famous guild hall or make your own guild hall to perfect your skills while training with fabulous facilities and forming networks with powerful individuals in the society around you. A guild hall is really useful for a rogue and other sort of classes and characters that are trying to sort of work for an organisation. They may have a profession of some kind, so a guild hall works very nicely in that case. Number 11 is a haunted mansion with hundreds of rooms full of ghosts, animated talking furniture, and pot plants in an enchanted forest that disappears into a magical fog. Does sort of sound very Disney, doesn't it? But I haven't selected a Disney image. But I thought the idea behind it was quite interesting, and it's certainly very fantastical. And the last thing you want to do is sort of take away the opportunity for your players to talk to the dead or their furniture or pot plants. Why not allow them that opportunity? Number 12, a spectacular crystal secret cave behind a rainbow-coloured waterfall with a magical camouflaged entrance and quartz statues to the gods. I'm sure a few of you have already noticed the image and figured out exactly where I pulled it from, and yes, I am borrowing heavily from Superman, but we won't say any more than that. Number 13, a steam-powered mechanical walking mansion that eats trees for fuel, spits out iron cannonballs, and has a bad temper. Or if you don't particularly like the idea of steampunk or steam-powered anything or steam mechanically stuff, well, then just go with the standard walking house with chicken legs. Number 14, a magnetic stone temple that heals the sick in the shape of a sun god driving a chariot being pulled by 16 horses that floats in the air with a vault door that can't be opened. There's nothing worse than including something that has a vault door that the players can't open. And of course, you don't necessarily have to have any opportunity to ever open that door. It will drive them bonkers. Number 15, a lighthouse with internal doors to different dimensional worlds that floats on a shattered earth motte and shines light through the veil of time, space, and magical illusions. Why do we want something like this? I was actually thinking when I came up with that idea, I'd done a video on this particular topic, which was the Arcane Lighthouse. I was thinking very much of Doctor Who's TARDIS. And then I also remember running a tower, a wizard's tower, where they could not find a way into the tower itself. There was no obvious front door to it. They had to find the door because it's hidden and disguised with magic and illusions. Once they got in, they found that by going up the tower, and in this case the lighthouse, there were a series of doors that would lead them to places they could never normally get to. And I found that hugely entertaining, and so did my players, so I think it's worth having a go. Number 16, a massive Fey home tree with an elaborate series of tree houses populated by pixies and built by elves or just giant stick insects. We always like the idea of having a tree house, but why not go with, essentially you're taking the idea of Avatar to the extreme. And there's been plenty of tree houses or magical tree houses or I mean, you think about all of the Disney stuff that's been put out in terms of Tinkerbell, there's a lot of tree houses. And of course, Robinson Crusoe, Tarzan, all that sort of stuff. Number 17. This is probably my favourite and open to potentially numerous stories and ideas in a history, and that is a tropical island stronghold or castle held up by gigantic statues formed or in the image of gods that is home to the Pegasus or Pegasi and is also the home of the stable to the gods. So why would you put the stables up high? Well, because you don't want anybody just going and taking or capturing or killing your flying horses, which of course is what is a Pegasus. Now, the statues themselves could also have built within them living quarters and structures, not just be solid in form if you wanted to. But it also makes it very difficult to get to. And one of the important aspects of any kind of stronghold is making getting access to it very difficult. So the only way to get there is either to be really good at climbing and have a climber's kit, or to be able to fly. So that sort of keeps most of the riffraff out. Number 18, a tavern or an inn with a crude or rude name, because of course every tavern or inn should have a crude or rude name, featuring a well to Undermountain where characters can run a business and get falling down drunk every night. Gosh, I think I kind of stole that one from somewhere. Isn't that the Yawning Portal? And of course that well leading to Undermountain leads to treasures and monsters, and there's always an opportunity to make a buck off all of the poor souls that get lost down there as they try to make their wealth. Number 19, a pyramid isolated in the mountains, surrounded by a magical maze. What's the worst thing you could possibly put in a game? A magical maze, and cloaked in illusions that collects solar energy to bring the dead back to life. Could be useful for the players. Certainly it gives a benefit for those individuals who are unable to be raised from the dead. And of course, if you bring them back here, you can bring them back to life. Let's hope they don't come back as zombies rather than just raised from the dead like we would prefer them to be. Also remember, the concepts behind something like a pyramid can also reflect not just a capacitor that stores energy and does something, functions like some sort of super weapon, but also a location or beacon to allow for flying crafts to land, particularly if you have a flat section on it. If you don't want to have a flat section, just make sure you have a hole in the ship that's going to land, so it doesn't wind up with its own asshole. Essentially, yes. Okay, number 20. The remains of a colossal god skull, or the skull of a god, or the remains of a god's body that forms the foundation to a magical stronghold created by necromancers and, of course, liches to bring about the destruction of the multiverse. Certainly this is going to have some sort of castle structure on it, but just the whole demeanor of it makes it look really cool. But the other thing behind it is this is an opportunity for your players to do something completely stupid, like conduct the ritual that will bring about the disaster that it was intended for. Okay, number 21. A museum full of the characters' ill-gotten gains, such as artifacts, weapons, armor, which don't need to be magical, but they could be magical, all the books they've collected, preserved monsters that they may have stuffed or used various other things to keep them intact, and wondrous items, even the most bizarre things they didn't really know what to do with. I really like this idea as a museum is sort of like a place where you can dump all the stuff that the players didn't really know what to do with, but nobody really wanted to buy, and the dungeon master wasn't going to let them sell it off because it really wasn't worth it, or it was worth far too much and there was nobody who had enough money to buy it off them. Number 22. A zoo. Now this could be a cage, to display all of the exotic creatures and monsters and beasts that the party have captured, not killed, but captured. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a series of cages. It might be a series of caravans that are built like cages, or it might even be a reserve. So a zoo, when I think zoo, I think cage and bars, but I also think isolated location where essentially we're talking about Jurassic Park essentially. But you don't have to have dinosaurs on there. You could have pretty much anything you wanted on there if you wanted. Number 23, going with the sort of museum zoo idea, let's go with the teleporting circus tent that you never need to assemble and put up or dismantle, because you don't need to worry about doing that. It has a extra dimensional space inside, essentially allowing it to hold more inside than appears from the outside. We're going with the concept of the TARDIS, extra dimensional space, and of course borrowing very heavily from Harry Potter. Now you could do this with a circus tent, you could do it with a castle, you could do it with a house, you could even do it with a shanty if you wanted to, or a fortress. Lots of different possibilities in terms of extra dimensional spaces and teleporting strongholds. Number 24, a gigantic turtle whose shell functions as a mobile island home, built from the shipwrecks that have been found, a fisherman's shanty, a windmill, a greenhouse, and has a small fishing boat in tow. Of course, you want to have a few trees because occasionally you might get hungry and want a coconut, but I thought this was quite fun. And for those of you who are wondering, why would you have a water wheel on the side? Well, maybe that's to actually generate power as the turtle swims around, so that you can power the various items in your shanty or on your home base. This is one of my favourite ideas. Out of all of them, I love the idea of the turtle. Number 25, a caravan made from enormous seed pods, seed pods, with multiple levels that can roll across the desert outlands. Do I have to really say anything more than that? When it came to a caravan, I didn't really want to have your standard caravan, and I felt like this image reflects the unusual nature of the types of flora and fauna you could find in a fantasy world. So a seed pod seemed like a good idea. Number 26, and the last one, and certainly I think almost my favourite out of the whole lot, and that is a massive snail. Yes, that's a snail home that is charged with cosmic power that can create dimensional portals to different worlds and go really fast. For those of you who remember the Never-Ending Story, there was a racing snail in there, and I really liked that particular character. I thought that was fantastic. So when I found this image, I thought, this reminds me of that, the Never-Ending Story. It also reminds me of the pink snail from Dr. Dolittle. I'm talking about the original Dr. Dolittle that was made many years ago, not Downey Jr.'s version where he decides to have basically stick his hand up a dragon's butt. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. Those are the ideas that sort of spawned this. This means you can have living quarters within the shell without affecting the creature itself. And I thought the idea of having a massive snail, which of course would present itself as being a big target, you would want that snail to do the absolute opposite to a normal snail, which is travel very fast and travel between dimensions. Just a lot of fun, in my opinion. I'm hoping that you found something out of this useful. Feel free to tell me what ideas you liked the most, because I am interested in what you have to say. So put that down in the comments by all means. Now, if you are interested in some of my other content, I have another video on how to build a home base for your Dungeons and Dragons group, and you're welcome to go and check out that video. I have hundreds of videos for players and dungeon masters. I have a series of videos for the Lost Mine of Phandelver, the Curse of Strahd, and the Dragon of Icespire Peak, if you are interested. If you want to support the channel so I keep doing stuff like this, you can check me out on Patreon, where you can get stuff, basically the stuff that I present in written form, and all the live streams, so you don't have to worry about being notified and clicking bell buttons and stuff like that. You don't have to worry about any of that sort of stuff then. Also too, I have affiliate links to the book depository and Amazon, where you can buy stuff online. I get a small commission. I have a merchandise shelf underneath all of my videos if you want some merch. Otherwise, you just keep watching my videos, because I run ads on my videos and I get paid for the ads you watch. So feel free to keep just doing that. Otherwise, make sure to share, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay, all right. I'm hoping that this gave people lots of really cool ideas that they can include in their game. I need to drink some water, so bear with me. So this is your opportunity to share your ideas that you might have included in your own game. By all means, flick them in there. But I really want to know what ideas people liked the most. There are apparently about 13 people in here, so that's 13 different opinions of what I've shown you. Is there anything I left out that could have been included? I feel like I've covered just about everything you could possibly think of. Can you imagine living inside a flail snail? I can't even imagine that. I'm going to try my glasses and see if they actually work today. Well, not really. It's interesting. Well, I suppose it's interesting for me. It's not interesting for you. Look, I will answer questions unrelated to the topic for today. If you're a player or a dungeon master, feel free to ask me a whole bunch of questions. You might have noticed I put a poll on the channel asking about cantrips, the best cantrips in Dungeons & Dragons 5e. I feel only slightly guilty that I laid a trap for people in the form of Toll the Bell. But I thought I would put it out there anyway. I was interested to see what people's perspective was on cantrips, which kind of suggests that in the future there will likely be some videos on spells, for those of you who are wondering if I would ever do it and return to doing spell videos. I feel like it's something I would like to do, but not necessarily going to be hugely popular. But it will happen eventually. I'm going to say hi to Dancers. Now, Dancers is right. The image of the tropical island, stronghold, or castle being held up by the gigantic statues should certainly have some sort of story behind it. I think essentially I was thinking in terms of a lot of the Greek mythology with regard to the antics of Hercules, and where one of his tasks was to clean out the stable of the gods, which is kind of where I was going with. I was going in that angle in terms of the idea behind it. And when I spotted this image, I thought, that's perfect. That's the one for me. I think that sort of stands out as classically the sort of thing that will excite players, and in fact makes a fantastic adventuring location before it becomes their stronghold or castle or home base. Hi John, how's it going? And yes, we've had comments about me in the sexy hat. Redwater, hello mate, how's it going, Redwater? John Capriso, I think I've got it right. Capriso? Yeah, okay. Hi John, how's it going? What about making the giant statue itself the stronghold? That's essentially one of the ideas, where you can have a giant statue as your stronghold itself, where it can walk around, smash through other fortifications, and generally just cause strife. It also makes a fantastic siege monster. So if you're dealing with particularly large creatures that are colossal in nature, such as the Tarrasque or giant worms or very large dragons, then you've got yourself, really you've got your own Voltron robot, just with a fantasy bent. Hi Fred, how's it going? I don't quite, okay, so you're writing in a language, I apologise, I do not know what you're saying, Fred, but I'm assuming it's good things. I'm going to just assume that. Maybe have it sit on a giant stone throne, and the throne's part of the stronghold as well, and it can move as a emergency contingency. John, that's a very clever idea. I think that's very nice, because one of the things that players often like when you're trying to come up with a clever location or stronghold for them, or just an adventuring location, is they'll want something that's fixed and something that's mobile. It's always come up for me. Redwater, it does sound like a mech, but I've actually used that concept in my game before, although I did use the idea of the mech robot in a fantasy and a science fiction RPG rather than a fantasy RPG. I would still do it in a fantasy RPG. I just wouldn't probably make it available straight away. I would probably leave it to later on, because you will find at higher levels as you're playing through the game that combat isn't something you want to do at high level. And so the game changes in what you're trying to do. I find that higher level play works better as a more diplomacy, negotiation, exploration, and solving problems that you can't fix with just your sword and your spells, by just blasting stuff. Okay, what else we got here? Fair enough. Yep, okay. Atlantis. You like the Atlantis image. It seems clear to me that people really are taken by the giant statue as the stronghold that is holding up sort of like the castle, and which is great. So I kind of figured that would be the case. More Fred, please. Okay, all right, you really get more Fred. I would probably have to come back through later on and figure out what you were saying through a translator, but I can't do that right now. So speaking French. Okay, yeah. I struggle speaking English and understanding English, so French is probably not going to work for me. And of course, remember, from New Zealand, not North American, therefore English slightly different in New Zealand to North America and England and other parts of the world, for those of you who haven't figured that one out yet. Okay, I see Ravenloft, Eberron influences. Yes, there is a lot of Ravenloft and Eberron influences, because I have run a lot of science fiction RPGs, Star Wars Saga, played in Bulldogs, Fate. Therefore, those are things that I kind of like. But also Ravenloft, I really enjoyed Ravenloft, but I would never do it to my players again, even though I enjoyed it so much. It's Portuguese. Okay, thank you, mate. Julian, my boy hell? My boy hell. I'm not too, my boy hell. What does that my boy hell mean, Julian? Oscar, hi Oscar. Portuguese and French is the same? Really? Oh, I'm not going to buy that one. Jankovic, I like the idea of the steampunk. Are you talking about the steampunk's mansion or structure that walks around, that shoots cannonballs and eats trees to fuel its system? I like the idea too. When I saw that image, I was thinking, bam, I can just see a whole bunch of people who really like that idea and would use it. Hi Fred. Fred Hubbard is late again. For those of you who don't know, I do try very hard to wait until Fred is in the room, but sometimes I can't keep waiting. I'm only kidding. Okay. Julian, what do you got here? Just get a magic fire to control the house through magic. Well, yeah, I mean, you can power anything however you like. It could be a fire elemental. It just depends. I just felt like pick an elemental creature that is related to the environment or the medium that it's moving through. and that sort of makes a lot of sense to me in any case. Fred Hubber likes, I like the Planegate Lighthouse. Okay, the Arcane Lighthouse, the Planegate Lighthouse. I like that idea too. I thought it was quite cool. There is actually a video on that topic, and Fred, you will know about that because I know you've commented on that video. There is no door, barbarian. Then I will make one. Okay, so Redwater, you're right. That's exactly what they try to do. They try to make a door, but you're not going to get through by just trying to bash a door into this magical lighthouse. You will actually have to figure out how to decode it and get through. That's what I did in my own campaign. You would not need to do that in your own. You can do whatever you like. You know, everything I present today are just ideas to get your imagination going. If you have a stronghold or a home base you want to create for your players to potentially use, if they want it, that is, or heck, just a location or idea for an adventure that you might want to run. So it can go both ways. And the great thing about this video is I don't have to worry about players watching it because there's no spoilers as such. Okay, dancers. The giant statue holding up the city is awesome. Love the concept art. I did too. I thought it was very impressive. Overboard DM. Hi, Joe. Now, Overboard DM runs a channel doing reviews on high-end miniatures. Most of it seems to be Gale Force 9, so you know you've got to have a bit of skill to be able to deal with those sorts of miniatures, and they're usually of a very high quality. They've also got a very high cost, and also you've got a lot of Dwarven Forge terrain he shows off, and he does reviews on various products as well. And I find that his reviews and the products he shows are things that most people don't put on YouTube. So it's a good idea to go and see his stuff. I need a drink of water before I lose my voice. I am amazed I managed to get through 5 pages of content so quickly, although I did try to stay very much to my notes. I tried not to fill in too much as I was going, which of course tends to be a trap for me when I do these videos, is once I start talking I kind of want to build more into it. Redwater. It would be nice if there were 4 statues holding a shield on which the 5th statue stood, but only its feet are left, and were tunneled into to create the stronghold. Well, here we go, Redwater. You might not have a picture of this idea, but essentially the 2 sentences that you've written 1 sentence, which is actually 2 sentences. Those 2 concepts that you've written there, that's a stronghold in itself, okay? And there's no reason why you can't go with that. I would go with it. If that's what you want and you like the idea, then do that. Remember, it's about imagination, and you don't always have to have a picture. Maybe the picture is just the idea that spawns something better. And what you're suggesting might be significantly better for your campaign, Redwater, and your players. What's that? Pedabaya? Something like that. Wardrobe. I don't know what the wardrobe is. Are you talking about the hat? Mate, I'm always wearing the hat. It's a bit hard today. It's very hot in New Zealand today. I'm cooking. I may pass out anytime soon too. Alright, so I've just managed to screw up my live stream. I was in the right place. I'd caught up and I thought, oh good, oh there we go. Alright, I'm back in line. Scrolling down here. I like the idea of the turtle. What if it submerged at a whim? Now, here's the thing. I was thinking about the turtle. I was going to say something about, maybe you have a spell that allows the location not to fill up with water and drown everybody. But I think that you guys can fill in that without having my assistance. But I really do like the idea of the turtle. The turtle and the snail, the giant massive snail, those ideas stand out. But I like the fact that you picked that up and you asked that question, because it was certainly something I was tempted to talk about, but I thought I don't need to. People know how to deal with that. Dancers. Oh, yeah, giant snail looks great. Yeah, the giant snail is awesome, isn't it? A giant flail snail, yeah, absolutely. Jankovic, what about the Mortal Engine style? Yeah, I certainly the concept, I think, for the walking mansion is taken from some whatever literature, but yes, Mortal Engines is sort of a good example of that concept. If anybody's seen the movie or read the book, I believe there is a book as well. Why not? Give it a go. Dancers, I like the idea of the giant space hamster as a base. A giant space hamster as a base? How would you live inside a giant hamster? Or I suppose the base could be mounted on top of the giant space hamster. Strap it on like a saddle, and hopefully it stays in place. Yeah, why not? If it works for you, go with it, man. The turtle diving is a problem. Okay, but what if the snail retracts back into its shell? Well, here's the thing. Does a snail retract back into its shell actually take up the entire shell? You know, as it grows and gets bigger and bigger and bigger, the snail gets bigger as well, but does it really need to take up all that space? There's no reason, as I've mentioned before, I've talked about extra dimensional spaces. There could be extra space that's extra dimensional and magical in nature within the shell, so you don't have to worry about that. And as for the turtle or tortoise diving under the water, well, the turtle is the one you're going to worry about the most, because I'm pretty sure the tortoise is more land-based. But yeah, just magical dome, force shield, keep the air in, easy enough to do. Hi John, I like the 23rd Harry Potter tent. Not that existing, but I like it. Yeah, no, I like the idea of a tent that has extra dimensional space in it and can actually be teleported from one location to the next. It's very simple in its concept. It doesn't require a lot of work for a dungeon master, because essentially it's like a big open space. But yes, still a really cool idea. And of course you can do whatever you like inside it, right? Snails only retract into the shell about 1/3 to a half revolution. All right, so it doesn't go all the way in, as Fred has just mentioned. I didn't think it did. Yeah, I've got quite a few likes today. Oh, I think that's good. Yeah, it's absolutely. If it's covering the stuff that people want, and you know how I feel about it, I try to cover stuff that I'm interested in. My current home group want a home base. They've told me they want a sailing ship. I've also suggested, well, what about something else? And I'm going to be using a lot of these ideas myself. So the chances are they will likely come across locations like this, and I will see what they like and what they don't like. Castle in the clouds. Oscar goes with the castle in the clouds. Why not? I also would like to have a living ship. Yeah, a little bit like Lex. There was a science fiction series called Lex, and it was basically an enormous flying insect. I think it was like a dragonfly, and it was mechanical, but it was also living. It actually had blood flowing through it and all that sort of stuff. It's a cool idea. A ship made of floating plants, dense enough to allow you to stand on and light enough to float. Well, yeah, I like it. It's a good idea. I didn't include the flying insect idea. It's been a while since I've watched the series Lex myself. Good series, by the way. I believe it's made in Germany, and it's got German actors. I'm pretty sure of it. Okay, Red Water. I would give my players the stronghold held up by statues and call it On the Shoulders of Giants. Ah, okay. Well, you have already started your own little adventure hook or seed, which can potentially continue on into something else in the future. So that's good news. Baby Frankenstein. What a fantastic name. Currently doing my first DM session on Minds of Phandelver. Is there any tips for making better side quests for them? Old Elwell, Banshees, Bargain, stuff like that. I haven't done anything on that Baby Frankenstein. I would advise you, if you want sort of to extend your side quests and have more, to have a look at the Dungeons and Dragons Essentials kit. I did a review on that. I've done a couple of videos on the Dragon of Ice by a Peak, which is basically, it revolves around a dragon, but there are a lot of little side quests that the players can participate in, revolving around that dragon itself. That's where I would go if I were you. Rather than me try to come up with something, somebody else has already done that. Chris Perkins. Can still skip them if you don't. Yeah. So yeah, you don't have to do all of the side quests in the Lost Mine of Phandelver. You could just leave them and do something else. Baby Frankenstein likes the turtle idea as a stronghold. Excellent. Good to hear. Overboard DM. Oh, I'm finally at the bottom of the chat. I feel like I'm catching up. Which means I can go shortly. Hey, it just means I need to go and cook some food and have a rest. I was stupid enough to stay up far too late last night. Okay, what was I doing? I was contemplating the world of Dungeons and Dragons 5e cantrips. If you do spells like into the living spells, I just got a few miniatures from Eberron unboxing. Never used living spells before. Okay. I've never used them myself. But then again, I kind of find that there's usually, most of the good spells are still in the player's handbook. There are occasionally other spells that have been released that are incredibly powerful or useful from other books that have been, or supplements that have been released. But yeah. Okay, good to know, Joe. My Boy Hell was a reference to Howling's movie Moving Castle. I didn't realise. Now I remember the Howling movies. I'm sure that's what you're talking about. Howling's Moving Castle. My Boy Howls. But I don't remember a castle. Anyway. Okay, well thank you for the reference. A party of the shortest kobolds could use the reduce spell to shrink their size to half and then come carry around a small house in their bag of holding. Well, why not? You go with the idea of, Alice in Wonderland is a really good example of things that grow and shrink. And there's no reason why you can't have a stronghold that the players can shrink down, as in, say, like, Ant-Man and the Wasp. They had this building that they could shrink down, carry around with them, and when they needed to get into it, it expanded, and they would then go in and do whatever they needed to do. Howls, not howling. Okay, I got it. I wonder about being inside a huge creature with some symbiotic relationship when you make a base inside their body, a worm or something. Yep, absolutely. A symbiotic relationship would make sense. So there's got to be a payoff for both parties, right? Fred, you need a key for each gate in the lighthouse that lets the DM limit where the players can choose to go till they are prepared. Well, you could do that, but what I did, Fred, with a campaign I was running for some dungeon masters, is some of those locations they couldn't really deal with. It's either was too hot or too strange, and they would just come back out and go back through the door again and say, well, maybe later on, but not right now. Redwater, are you challenging my grammar? No, but I'm saying that you actually have presented two ideas, Redwater. I kind of actually am, aren't I? But it's beside the point. It was not intended to be horrible or anything. But you had essentially two ideas that took something that already existed and you made it your own. And that's really what you want to do as a dungeon master. These videos that I do, They're ideas. They're not, if you don't do it this way, you're bad. I get really annoyed when I see videos like that. I just want to give you as many different ideas as possible. Okay, thank you. Here we go. He's given me, now hopefully I get it pronounced. Sorry, Fred. P-Dubia. My first comment was referring to something mentioned in the video. A port to their base akin to the Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. Well, yeah, why not? Yeah, I mean, you could essentially have the entrance to a stronghold going through a wardrobe. But yes, I get your point. Makes sense. When I play Druids in D&D, one of my wishes are to get one of those plant ships. A plant ship? It's a nice idea. What plant would it be, Janjovic? What plant would you select to be a ship? I selected seed pods, which is kind of part of a plant, to be part of a caravan. But a plant ship, yeah, you'll have to enlighten me a bit more. Baby Frankenstein. Final thing. Hope you isolate has been well from New Zealand as well. Okay, so isolation in New Zealand, we are currently in level 4. We will be going to level 3 on, I think it's Monday, just before midnight or something like that. It's ridiculous. I don't know, it's like 11:59 or something crazy. But most people in New Zealand, I've found, have just ignored everything at this point in terms of isolating. I work for essential services in healthcare, so I look after people with extremely complex issues who are under lock and key, so they can't just go out around anywhere they like. And so therefore, I've been working the whole time. Therefore, I'm in the public quite a lot. We have to reduce the amount that we do, because we can't just take people anywhere. But yes, I've been going back and forth from work and having to do a variety of other things. So yeah, I'm all right so far. There was a little bit of a scare at one point, but I knew it wasn't going to be an issue. I knew it was just a reaction to the flu vaccine, which I got early. Okay, Chris Cummings. Yep, got it. It's an anime movie, Howl's Moving. Okay, anime. All right, so I wouldn't probably not know very much about that. Thank you. Now I know. See you later, Fred. Okay, I'll see you, Joe. It was a joke. It was a joke. Nah, I figured it was a joke. What about a small base inside a portable hole? Oh, dancers. We're getting dangerous here, aren't we? Can you imagine what happens if somebody decides to carry their bag of holding into the portable hole where their home base is? Oh, yeah. Oh, lily pads. Okay, so a lily pad as a home base. I like the idea. So would the base for the lily pad be sitting on top of the lily pad above the water, or would it be built underneath the lily pad so it was concealed and could not be seen? Because that would make more sense, right? The idea behind a stronghold or a home base is that it's hard to get at and hard to get into. Otherwise, there's no point having it, right? But yeah, a couple of different ideas. Like it. Yeah, and of course the lily pad would have to be very big. Or the player's characters would have to become very small. One or the other. Yeah, modified portable hole of sorts, yeah. I've been following your videos ever since I got back into D&D last July. Keep up the good work and stay safe. I'll do my best. I've had PCs commission racks and bags to organise the bags of holding and a complete alchemist lab in a portable hole. Okay. Sounds danger. I had players who decided to try and manufacture multiple bags of holding. And then once they had like 12 of them, one of them said, I'm going to take 11 of the bags of holding and I'm going to stick them into one bag of holding. And I made sure that they regretted that. Hence the use of wish to turn back time later on. above the water. It's like a ship. All right, above the lily pad. I'll have to come up with a new way to spell my name, which is my operating initials at work. Not everyone pronounces it right. Ha ha. PW. Well, you know. The problem is that the English language has a whole lot of silent letters, and pronunciation is dependent on where you are in the world, even with the English language. So phonetics in England are slightly different to the phonetics in North America, and they are slightly different to the phonetics in New Zealand and other parts of the world. You know, Australia, the pronunciation, there's more stress on other parts of the word. But yeah. Anyway, Matt, hi Matt. Just wanted to say hi. Thanks for all the great content. Well, you are welcome. Look, I feel like we have covered everything. And thank you to everybody. Thank you to my patrons who I'm hoping will find hugely useful to have a write-up, a written copy of this that they can use. And for those of you who aren't patrons, I'm hoping that it has spawned lots of really cool ideas that you can use in your game. Because that's the idea, is to get you thinking about something else. And I suppose I was going to sign out with this image, but since it seems quite clear that a lot of people like the statue holding up the castle or fortress, I better move to that image instead. So wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, afternoon, night, or early morning, look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Keep clear of your neighbours, but be nice. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. That's a shame, Candice. Yes, you are late. I'm about to go. Next time.